What's up, Central Illinois? Derek Hayden here. Garrett and I love sharing all the awesome stories about our Central Illinois business leaders. We want to make sure our Central Illinois businesses are protected so we can continue to share all these great stories. That's why you should consider another great Central Illinois company, Pekin Insurance, for your business insurance needs. That's right, you can get all the commercial insurance coverages that your company needs from an excellent insurance company headquartered right here in Pekin, Illinois. Pekin Insurance offers comprehensive business coverage that lets you focus on what's important to you: employees, profits, and peace of mind. Ask your local Pekin Insurance agent about their commercial insurance products or learn more at pekininsurance.com. You can also contact your favorite podcast hosts, Garrett or myself, Derek, and we'll go beyond the expected for you.
Welcome to the Central Illinois Business Leaders Podcast, where business owners, thought leaders, and community champions from across Central Illinois come to share their story. The Central Illinois Business Leaders Podcast. Anything less would be uncivilized.
What's up, Central Illinois? Welcome to the CIBL Podcast, powered by Zambu. Zambu is a delicious grapefruit oral wildberry vodka-based spirit infused with a Brazilian buzz button. It's smooth, tasty, and leaves you with a signature tingle. Learn more at ZambuLiquors.com. Zambu, taste the tingle. Central Illinois today is going to be a little bit different. Obviously, I'm here with Garrett. I didn't announce that at the beginning, but the reason is because we don't really have a guest here today. It's just Garrett and I.
And
we're going to take a look back. What's that?
And we're not that special.
No, we're not. We like to think we are, but we're not. We're taking a look back at the first 50 episodes, and we're actually way past 50, but we didn't realize we were past 50 until we looked at our numbers and we're like, oh man, we eclipsed the 50 episode mark. We might want to do a little look back here. So we're just going to talk about some of the things that we've seen, give some recommendations to our listeners and followers, and shout outs to some of our guests. Garrett, what's one thing that you have noticed or taken from all of our guests in the first 50 episodes?
Oh, man. I think the common theme with the business owners, CEOs, people that we've met with, extremely driven individuals. I think that, one thing they have in common, seems like a lot of them read, they set goals or try to read books, to continue to, gain their knowledge, just get smarter, and just driven, hard working behind the scenes. I don't think that work-life balance, quote that everybody's looking for today is the same with a lot of the people that we have on the show. I think they're just driven and work and get after it. So,
yep.
What about you?
I'd say one thing I've noticed is they don't make very many excuses.
No, zero.
No. You look back, the most recent one that we had was Jeremy Yost Enterprises, building the convention center over in Mattoon. They lost funding for a multi-million-dollar facility during a pandemic, and the dude did not stop and kept going.
Do you remember how many phone calls he made? I can't remember.
Over 300.
Yeah, it was over 300, between 300 and 400 phone calls. He said to acquire the assistance to help build it. So
yeah. So that's what I see, and it's not just him. It's every person we've talked to. They all have something that they want to get to, a goal that they want to achieve, and they figure out a way to get it done.
Yeah.
And there's not, bad things happen, but that doesn't stop them. They find a way to break through. You think about Billy Bob Teeth, Jonah White.
Oh, yeah.
The dude lived in a cave.
Yeah.
Dude lived in a cave. And if you've not listened to that one, I would say that's one of the most entertaining episodes we've done so far. That was back in early fall when we
I think he said he didn't have inside plumbing until
high school,
junior, senior year, something like that.
Yeah. Something ridiculous.
Graduated college. His dad gave him some wise advice and said, don't regret 30 years from now working at a place that you've never enjoyed. So he dug his own cave. Didn't he dig his own, or there was a cave on their property?
Yeah. Lived in a cave, found a dude wearing fake Billy Bob Teeth at a football game.
Yeah.
And created Billy Bob Teeth. So no excuses. The other thing that I've noticed is they are all very positive.
Oh, for sure.
Not many people that we've had on the show are negative Nellies or negative Nancys. So, you can see the difference between people who are just successful. Like they are just winners. I hate to say that sounds bad, but they win, they're successful, and they do not get discouraged easily, and they keep a positive mental attitude. And that's something you can tell if you go back and listen. No one talks negatively about themselves or their situation. It's all positive, and they keep going.
One of the things too that I think I have noticed is they are all seem to be very focused on their employees.
Yep.
The workplace culture. I think that's the phrase we hear a lot today, workplace culture, and everybody wants it to be good because with all the craziness in the world today behind the scenes in everybody's life. But it does seem like one of the first things that most of them all spoke about was their people.
Yeah.
As far as that goes. So
that's for sure. Yeah. They are all looking to grow, not necessarily their income or their business, but they're looking to grow constantly. Like whether that's through education, like you mentioned before, Garrett, reading, they are all looking to improve, I guess is the word that I'm trying to find, improve either their business, their life, other people's life, their community. There's something that keeps them motivated and keeps that fire lit that most people don't have. Or I guess I should say most people could have, but they just choose not to. You can, what's the saying? Success favors the bold or something like that. If you're willing to put yourself out there, get your ass kicked, for lack of better terms, most of the time, if you keep going, something good's going to happen.
Yep.
And I'm not going to tout, to our own horns too much, but the Central Illinois Business Leaders Podcast happened the same way. 2.5 years ago, this wasn't a thing. No one had ever heard of it because it didn't exist.
No.
We just decided to do it. Did it stink when we first started? Probably. Did we have many listeners? We had like 2, which was Garrett's wife and my mom.
And I'm not sure that my wife ever clicked play.
There was just, we didn't have many followers. And I was looking at our data just last week. And I think we just posted something about Colt McLeod was our number 1 listened to episode.
Yeah.
But our listenership is well into the thousands.
Yeah.
And that's something like when you're looking at our data and it's like 12, 22, 13, it's just like, oh my gosh, how this is not working. This is not worth the time and effort that it takes to get a guest on and try to think of questions and keep a conversation going and editing and posting. But we produced over the year 2022, we produced over 1,000 minutes of podcast recording. So that, and then I think we produced, I can't remember how many episodes, but our growth was like something ridiculous. Like we grew 422% over the course of 2022, listenership wise. So
that's crazy.
Yeah.
Talking just about, common theme between most of our guests. One of the things I want to say too is I feel like a lot of them surround themselves with people that are going to lift them up. I don't feel like there's any jealousy between the business owners. They surround themselves with other business owners, whether it's a group, so I know a lot of the stuff that, we read and you and I talk about sometimes is you act typically like the 5 most people that you hang around, right? They're the people you hang around the most. So if you hang around negative people, you're probably going to, get some negativity and some excuses. And that is one thing it sounds like that most of these individuals we have met with, they surround themselves with other like-minded individuals to continue to lift their spirits as well. So,
yep. And that's true because we see all of our guests end up referring us to new guests that are in their circle.
Yeah.
And the people that we keep getting referred are just people that you want to be around. So Garrett and I are lucky that at least once a week we're recording with someone who gives us a little motivation to do something unique and stick it out. So,
well, it's easy to, let's face it. I don't care if you own a business or, like us, to where you're kind of your own business, but work inside of a business, you've got to have some thick skin and just lose your hair. Right. I mean, that's just what,
right.
So I definitely, you've got to just keep swinging the bat for sure. So,
yep. So one last thing that I'm thinking about that I've noticed just learning from the Central Illinois region and business owners is there's a ton of opportunities available. People think of Central Illinois as cornfields and deer stands, but it's
It is.
yeah, it kind of is. But there's a lot of opportunities. You look back at, like we mentioned, Billy Bob Teeth, a guy created fake teeth and is making a living doing that. You got a solar company that we're going to interview here soon. The people that we've had on, there's just such a broad array of business owners out there, and you can find something. If you want to be an entrepreneur or a business owner, business leader, you can find something that you're able to do. You just got to get a little bit creative, step outside the box, and find something that you want to do and make it happen. Like we talked about, be positive, no excuses, get it done.
Yep, absolutely. I can still remember the day you walked in. I'm pretty sure it was a Monday morning, and we talked about doing, because we started off as the D&G show. Right. That is what it started and then transpired into this. And I can still remember the day you walked in and said, we're doing the podcast. I can remember writing a few things down thinking, and you would not take no for an answer. Nope, we're doing it. I don't care. We're going to make it happen. So, it just goes to prove if you're willing to put some time and effort and, sweat equity into it, things can work.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Like you said, we had to change from the D&G show because either Dollar General or Dolce & Gabbana, once we got as big as we are today, we definitely would have been in a lawsuit in a legal battle with those companies. So, we were going to start producing our own. I don't even know what Dolce & Gabbana is. It shoes or just clothing and bags?
I think it's just clothing in general. You can tell we're real fashionistas, right?
This is the Central Illinois version of the fashion police.
Yeah.
So of all the episodes, Garrett, what do you feel has been your personal favorite episode?
It's hard.
And no disrespect to any of the other people we
this is, the tough part of it is I always go back to Jonah. Mm-hmm. It is hard to not think of, wow. This guy came, and a lot of people come from nothing, but he essentially came from nothing. He started, like you said, a fake line of teeth. He lived in a cave. He came from a family that he, said had very little, to help themselves, as they were growing up. So it's like from what he did, and, he's just expanded so much. I don't know. It's hard to beat that one. We've got a lot of great individuals, but
yeah, the guy had $400 to his name.
I don't know too many people that found their passion and growth for life by living in a cave for a year.
Yeah, that is tough to beat. I will say I enjoyed listening to Jay Lehman. Just his experience about football. Obviously, Garrett and I are pretty close to the same age as Jay, and when Illinois made it to the Rose Bowl, Jay was, he was the face of the Illinois football team, at least one of the faces, especially being a local guy, a Central Illinois born and raised guy. Between him and Britt Miller, those two guys were kind of the Central Illinois linebacking duo where we were like, oh man, those guys, it's fun to watch them because they were representing our state, not just at the U of I level, but they were born and raised here in Central Illinois. So getting the opportunity to talk to Jay and listening about, his career, how he was not very recruited coming out of high school, somehow, made an appearance and had a, game of a lifetime on U of I's turf in high school, and then signing and coming up through the ranks and then going to the NFL. Then obviously using his athletic experience to turn that into his real estate career, network broadcaster for Big Ten Network. He took it on the teeth
with his real. He told us that in his story. You talk about his failures in football, not being down, and then progressing, and then finally having some success at Illinois. And then when he started into his real estate, I don't think if I remember right, it didn't go too well right out of the gate.
No, I think he lost some money on a flip or something like that.
Talk about most of the individuals we talk to have been like everyone else in life. We go through struggles, but they just keep punching, man, and just keep getting after it. So,
yep. And I've enjoyed all of them, but just because we followed Jay from a young age and now watching him succeed in the business world, that was cool.
Andy Shirk sticks out too. I've always thought that the beer
yeah.
nuts business, that's cool.
Yeah, I've got to get a shout out to Andy, because he kind of helped us get rolling in the right direction with sending us some guests.
Yeah.
And, we're kind of scraping and clawing, and we had Andy on, talked about beer nuts. That's a cool story. Not many people know that Beer Nuts is located right here in Central Illinois. So we were able to get his story out a little bit, and then he sent us some of the, best guests we've had on the show. So yeah. Andy, if you're listening, hopefully you are. Shout out to you, man. Appreciate all your support.
Yeah.
So is there an episode that you feel you are most proud of?
I don't know.
And I can go first.
I'll switch that question back around to you.
I will tell you. So one of our first revamped biz tips was how to start a podcast.
Yeah.
And that was with Nick and John over at I'm not sure what it's called now, but Town and Country Bank.
Town and Country Bank, yeah.
Yeah, they were purchased recently. But over in Springfield, they reached out to us probably in early summer, I would say, late spring maybe. And we ended up having lunch with them. As all through the podcast, they'd seen some of our stuff on LinkedIn, started following us, invited us to lunch. We had lunch over in Taylorville, and ended up having them on the podcast, because some of the questions they had were, they were wanting to start their own show, own podcast, and they wanted to know how we did it. So we used that as an opportunity to record our first revamp of the biz tips. If you go back into the archives of the CIBL podcast, you'll see where Garrett and I did kind of what we're doing now. We did like solo versions of biz tips. We did like 5 or 6 episodes, and we ran out of ideas because it was just us talking. And we are not, we can come up with some ideas, but there's not much people want to talk about. Like, we're starting to become more insurance related, and we're like, so we kind of stopped it. We got the idea to get it back and have guests on to talk about their expertise. Well, in this one, we did talk about how we started the podcast, and we produced 4 episodes. They're each like 8 to 12 minutes long, about, what equipment we use, how we edit, what we use to produce the show, that type of stuff. And it's all on a very low budget. I can tell you, if you're listening and you want to start a podcast, go back and listen to that Biz Tips series. But anyway, as a result of that, I know for a fact we had, Nick and John started their own podcast, the Centers of Influence podcast. Check them out. Dozer Dial and his buddy started I don't know if we were the main reason, but we helped them learn a little bit about, what was the name of their podcast? I think it was called Short Story Long. Yeah, Short Story Long.
Yeah.
So check them out. They started theirs. And then I also was contacted by a guy originally from the Central Illinois area, but he moved up to, I think it was Michigan. I'm going to make sure, but he moved up to Michigan, and he had been following our podcast and heard, I think he heard Colt's podcast because he was from Assumption. And so Andy Albrecht from the Assumption area, he reached out because he's wanting to start something like that. So I recommended he listen to that. So he's going to start, using our podcast to start his own podcast. So Andy, shout out to you if you're listening, man. But it's just cool knowing that somebody from Michigan, even, who I guess used to be from Central Illinois, is listening and is getting information from us. I was pretty proud of that, helping other people grow their network as well.
Yeah. I still think it's hard to say episode wise, but just thinking about people I've met that I feel like have inspired and been extremely, motivational. Patrick Hoban, the chief executive guy for the Bloomington Economic Development.
Mm-hmm.
Man, that guy was amazing. He was motivational, good. Just some of the things he helped us introduce us to a lot of people too.
Yeah. He might have sent us Andy.
He did introduce us to Andy. Yeah. And then, that parlayed into Andy has sent us a lot of guests and been a great influence to help us get individuals on the show. But Patrick was a ball of fire, and man, what he's done for Bloomington area is insane.
Yeah.
I feel like he was a great person and a great center of influence to know for sure.
Yeah. He had a few tips. If you go back and listen to his episode, he had a few tips of how to get noticed on, I think it was Twitter, maybe.
Yeah.
So just unique stuff that you would never think of. Another episode I think of about, when people are maybe listening and they're wanting to maybe venture out on their own potentially, and they're trying to figure out how to do it. Lee Altoff from Effingham, Rhodes Catering or Country Roads Catering. I can't remember the exact name, but Rhodes Catering, if you look it up, you'll find it, out of Effingham area. Him and his wife were teachers, and they were wanting to find something different, and they literally just left on a whim and bought this catering business, and they've turned it into now they're serving employees of Amazon and Walmart and all these huge corporations. And I see him post the stuff on LinkedIn. Yeah. So like they took a bet on themselves and made it happen. Yeah. And so it's cool to see that type of stuff.
The name is, and I tried to look it up, but I can't, I feel bad. The individual was he from Pennsylvania? Gregory
Offner.
Yes. So we had a guy, extremely motivational, hard worker, I think in today's world, a lot of people kind of get a bad rap if you switch jobs. If you work at something for a year or two, you don't enjoy it, you decide to move on, try something new. I think sometimes that can be frowned upon. I think he said he had 40 jobs. Yeah, was successful at all of them. Sales careers, he was, always moving his way up, but eventually, things just struck him, and he'd try, he'd take new opportunity or, a new challenge and do it. But now he is a piano bar, motivational guy that speaks to huge companies. So, one of those that speak to you too. Don't be afraid to try something new. If your passion's gone and something is burning, try something, the scenes and go for it.
And I'll give a shout out to the guy who created the drink that's got on the sign right over your left shoulder. Yeah. So you want to talk about a guy who had an idea and just ran with it. The keynote sponsor of the Central Illinois Business Leaders Podcast, Mr. Jared McLean of Zambu, his story, he told it on the podcast, but if you ever get a chance to talk to Jared in person, his stories go way beyond just Zambu. First off,
if you're gonna talk to Jared, you at least have to clear out 30 minutes on your calendar, because that's just going to get you a hello goodbye. So you need a little time to dip into Jared. I can nudge him. Jared and I've been friends for years, but yeah, his story's crazy. He was at a sushi bar in Colorado, if I remember correctly, and where he was introduced to what the Brazilian buzz button was or whatever, and then the story just went from there. So if you want to give something a go, just goes to prove you can do it if you're willing to put the effort in.
Yep. Well, there's not much else that I had thought up here. Any last notes that you want to leave our listeners with?
I know it's cliche, but we appreciate everybody listening, tuning in. I think I'll be the first to admit, when we started this, I didn't know that we would get to 5 episodes, 3, you know what I mean? So to get 50 plus, it's quite an accomplishment. Shout out to Derek. I'm not the most help behind the scenes. He's a lot more technical with what we've got going on behind the scenes with the editing and all of that type of stuff. But we appreciate everybody. If you are listening to this, you're a business owner or, influencer in the area, we'd love to talk to you and jump on the show.
Absolutely. Yeah. Reach out to us. If you have a guest idea, even if you personally don't want to be a guest, send us some ideas. We've created a new Facebook group. It's just called the Central Illinois Business Leaders. Facebook does a terrible job of helping us promote our show organically. So we're trying to take matters into our own hands and create a group so we can share this information all over Central Illinois, share the businesses, the biz tips. I think that's going to be impactful. We've had I put a poll on that group to see what people want to learn about. And I think they answered, they want to learn about how to protect their business legally. They want to learn about marketing, tax information. So we are actively working on getting some guests on to talk about that. Yeah, we have Carrie Rinker, who was one of our first 10 or 12 guests on the show, coming back on to talk about setting up an LLC. So that'll be a legal topic. If you want to learn more about how to protect your business, set it up correctly. She's going to be doing a 3 or 4 part series through the Biz Tips episodes. We just recorded a session with Lisa Wilson at Land of Lincoln Credit Union in Effingham. She's going to talk about, or you're going to learn from her about how to apply for a home loan. I know it's not necessarily business related, but most business owners end up buying a home, especially if you're a first-time business owner or a first-time home buyer. It's very good information that, I've bought a few homes and I wasn't aware of a few things that I probably should have done. And then what else have we got? We've got a few slated here. We've got Wes Ernst coming on here soon. He is the CEO of Halo Solar. We've got Casey Wolf, who just opened Ginger Ales in Effingham. Yep. We have, let's see, Allison Hasler, who is a native of Newton, Illinois. Garrett and Allison went to high school together in Newton, and she now owns a property management, short-term rental management company called Southern Illinois Vacation Rentals. Pretty unique business idea that she's going to come on and talk about. We've got a few others lined up, and I can't remember off the top of my head exactly who and what. Blake Pierce from Rural King and Mattoon is coming on in January. So other than that, send us some ideas, guys. Appreciate the listenership and your support. We're well over 50. I think we're almost at 70 at this point now.
Awesome.
I went back and looked. So we'll be at 100 probably in the first quarter, within the first quarter, maybe early second quarter. That's all I got.
Sweet. Yep. Leave us a review if you can. Those are greatly appreciated, and that helps with our growth as well.
Yep. Until next time, y'all have been civilized. Take care.
Take care.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Central Illinois Business Leaders Podcast. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/CIBL Podcast. You can also follow us on LinkedIn. Don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. It's the civilized thing to do.